viewers, as we told you, we are doing this special segment of a program on climate changes, and particularly the kind of challenges Pakistan is facing, and in the background of 2022, worst kind of floods which Pakistan suffered. So we have our special guest, Jen Marriott, as the High Commissioner to Pakistan, British High Commissioner. So how are you?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for having me on the
I
show.
hope you're settled down in Pakistan, in Islamabad.
Yeah, very much so. I've been here 3 months, but it feels much longer in a very good way. Everybody's been so welcoming.
Okay, my first question, as you witnessed, Pakistan suffered worst kind of flooding during 2022.
Yeah.
And over this time period, Pakistan had been seeking help from all over the world.
Yeah.
So what kind of help UK had offered to Pakistan, and in coming months, how do you see developing this relationship with Pakistan?
So, I mean, the UK sort of spun up immediately to try and help support with the humanitarian aspects of things. So overall, we contributed just shy of $50 million towards the immediate relief, but also looking at some of the longer term implications. So immediate support to things like water, food, sanitation, shelter, but actually it's the health and the education issues that have also been very challenging. So the floods put about 3.5 million school kids out of school, of whom about 1 million are still not back in school. So we're focusing on working with the provincial and national governments to try and help some of those kids back. I think one of the challenges we have is that these used to be a once-in-a-generation event, and we had the floods in 2010. I remember those vividly. I was working on Pakistan in the US State Department at the time. Then we've had them in 2022. We've had other types of floods in 2023. So the focus increasingly needs to be about building resilience, because these floods are going to keep coming back, unfortunately.
Okay, off late, this climate change is not only affecting the third world countries. Off late, we have seen kind of flooding in UK as well, the kind of rain spells, the kind of drought spells. So there's a lot of discussion going on to use better technologies, how we can improve countries, and particularly countries like Pakistan, to improve their resilience to face these shocks.
Yes. So I think in some ways we're very much looking towards technology for some of the big solutions like carbon capture, although this is no alternative for cutting emissions, but also looking at technology for some of the smaller but high impact work. So the UK, for example, has been working with LUMS and WWF to develop an early warning fire detection system. So it's ironic that you get droughts and floods and fires, and the problem with climate change is you get all these extreme events. It's not that the world gets slightly warmer, it's that world getting slightly warmer triggers these disasters across the world. And as you say, no country is immune to these. So this project that we've been running with LUMS basically uses artificial intelligence and sensors to be able to detect when fires are starting to break out, which makes it much easier to respond to those fires, but also to warn communities that there is a problem, and to help save their lives. And I hope that we can roll that out nationally before too long.
Of late, I'm watching a lot of discussion on this COP coming. I think UAE is hosting that conference.
That's right, yeah.
So the world is expecting a lot of pledges from the international community, particularly from the developed world.
Yeah.
And UK being in the lead role, particularly King Charles III, who takes these climate changes very close to his heart. So what kind of pledges we are expecting from the British government during this COP upcoming?
So we've got 3 main areas of focus for COP28. The first is that we still need to try and stay as near as on track as possible. On track is what we're looking for, to the no higher than a 1.5 temperature rise over the next few years. And that's going to be really difficult to try and deliver, but it's one that we need to do through both cutting emissions globally, and of course Pakistan is not a big contributor. The UK used to be, but actually we're not now. So lots of emissions cutting is crucial to keep us to that 1.5%. Another key objective for us is to help build resilience globally to climate change, and we've touched a little bit on that already. And then around biodiversity, so halt and rebuild biodiversity. Both the UK and Pakistan have signed the 30 by 30 pledge, which means that by 2030 our land and oceans should be biodiverse. And actually I had a wonderful afternoon at one of the organic farms outside Islamabad today, looking at some of the innovative ways that they are using to conserve water. So by using polytunnels, for example, it cuts the water that you need to grow fruit and vegetables in half.
And my next question is, Pakistan, as we are talking about, had suffered a lot. We are the least, one of the countries we do not emit emissions.
Yeah.
Probably we are one of the 5 countries least where we do not emit emissions but suffered a lot.
Yes.
And what do you think? What kind of measures Pakistan as a government, we are a third world country, have lots of economic issues as well.
Yeah.
So what are your expectations from the government of Pakistan, from the state of Pakistan, that we should take these measures so we can also become a climate resilient country?
Yeah. Well, I have to say my expectations of Pakistan are high, not least because I know it's a government your Prime Minister in particular really cares about, your President cares about. You've had some great climate change ministers, including the current one. So I think expectations are high of Pakistan to contribute fully at COP28. The leadership that you showed last year on the Loss and Damage Fund, which the UK fully supports, has been absolutely crucial in getting that debate going, getting that agenda going on loss and damage. We'd also love to see Pakistan sign up to the Sustainable Blue Economy Action Plan that's part of the Blue Economy Group. And this essentially is about how do we look after our oceans to make sure that they benefit, yes, biodiversity, but also the communities that depend on that. So, are we overfishing? How do we make sure stocks are sustainable? How do we make sure communities are benefiting? So the blue economy, I think, is the next big thing in green.
I've seen you are traveling a lot to Karachi, and you must have, visited the Karachi seashores.
Yes.
So, what is your was the first reaction when you went there?
Well, to be honest, I was a little concerned about Karachi because it's at sea level, and as those global temperatures go up, so you need some good town planning to make sure that Karachi can be protected and preserved. So I'm sure that's on the minds of politicians and leaders in this country. A few years ago, I was lucky enough to visit Boston in the US of A, and already the work that they put in to make their city climate resilience was really impressive. Everything from designing buildings, because a lot of Boston is reclaimed land, like Karachi, in fact. So a lot of the planning that they'd done was to say, okay, at the moment this is ground level, but when the waters start to come up, this needs to be ground level instead. And they'd almost sort of designed 2 entry floors in anticipation of, in their major hospital, in anticipation of the way the world is likely to be by 2050.
And towards the end of our discussion, King Charles III is going to celebrate his
75th yes.
birthday.
Yeah.
So yours being in Pakistan will be the first celebration. So what are special plans you're having in mind? How are you going to celebrate that?
So we're going to be celebrating in Islamabad, Lahore and Karachi. But I don't think King Charles is the sort of man who wants a celebration for the sake of it. He would want to know what is the point of it. And in many ways, King Charles was the original Greta Thunberg. So back in 1968, before global warming was coined as a term, before people talked about climate change, then Prince Charles was talking about climate issues, he was talking about resilience, he was talking about how we live on this planet, in particular how we do food sustainably. So we're going to theme all of our parties with climate. For example, all the produce will be locally sourced, everything will be sustainable, and we'll be making a couple of announcements about forthcoming green programs on top of the things we already do on climate change, water resilience, and other issues that we already deal with.
One last question about the COP28.
Yes.
A lot of discussion is going on about the role of the Western world, particularly the US.
Yeah.
And we saw So how do you see this COP28 coming in terms of Western world's commitment to the climate change?
Yeah. So I think, the UK is very committed to this. We're on track to meet all of our targets, for example. I think we all need to keep each other honest on this. So, we need the developing world and the developed world working together, because otherwise none of us are going to be developed by 2100. We're all going to be suffering. So I think it's really keen that we work together on this and that we keep each other to our promises.
Jen, my producer is constantly asking what you're wearing on your coat, this poppy thing.
Oh,
but
my
you can
poppy,
explain
yes.
a little bit to the audience.
So the poppy actually derives from the First World War. When there was lots of fighting in the fields of Northern Europe, where poppies were constantly growing. So poppies became symbolic with fallen soldiers from across the Commonwealth, of course. And so over the years, the first poppies were introduced in 1921 as a sort of fundraiser for soldiers who had been injured and their families who are now in poverty. And since then, it's sort of grown more of a symbol of remembering how terrible war is, the sacrifices that people make, whether they are military but also civilian. And we see that across the world today in wars, whether what we're witnessing in Israel and Gaza. There's a horrible war going, civil war going off in Sudan right now, which never hits the headlines. There's a lot of conflict in the world, so this is a moment, I think, to reflect and remember the sacrifices that have been made, but also the efforts needed for peace to stop future sacrifices by military and civilians. So on Saturday we'll be holding a ceremony in Rawalpindi, and on Sunday we'll do something small at the British High Commission to commemorate the dead.
Jen, thank you very much for your time, and we wish you a very happy and fruitful stay in Pakistan and Islamabad. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.